into
the
the
next
next
life
life
with
with Drew
Drew and
and
me.
me. Okay, welcome to the Drew and Me podcast with Jake Mattera.
Hello. Thank you for having me back, Drew.
Jake, again, welcome to the show. We're gonna talk about a Jim Carrey movie. We're gonna talk about Liar Liar and the Pixies album Bossanova. We're going to talk about some of our favorite songs from Bossanova, but first we're going to talk about Liar Liar. And on the Drew and Me
Perfect.
podcast, we talk about movies, we're talking about Liar Liar, and we talk about music, we're talking about Bossanova. And sometimes we do sketches, but we're not going to do a sketch today, so it's totally okay. All right, so let's see. So, first, Jake, any
Yes.
creative projects that you're working on right now that you'd like to tell our viewers and listeners about?
Yeah. Right now, I'm hosting. There's several podcasts that I'm doing right now that I'd love for you to check out. One is with Mike Rainey and John Del Colo. It's called Lil Stinkers, and it's a it's about it could be, it can go either way. Each episode, John does a coin toss, and the episode could either be about an impractical joker, or it could be about a serial killer, and it all depends. And Mike's always ready with the research, and he
Mm,
basically tells me and John ghost stories of these horrible people and things they've done, and we try to find the comedy in their peculiar life that they've had and they've
mm.
led. And yeah, it's pretty wild, pretty insane. And almost polar opposite of that podcast, I'm doing one with Eric Terrell. You know Eric.
Yup.
We do a podcast called Stand Up Guys, which is pretty great. And we basically, it's like it's just, you know, we've been considered nice guys in comedy, so we're trying to just bring the nice to other people, and we're just trying to, we kind of talk about social anxiety and so like awkward situations and stuff like that,
Mm.
and how to deal with them. Yeah.
I think it's great. I think each podcast sounds really great. When I came up in comedy in Philly, I did come up with all those guys. So
Yeah.
yeah, and uh definitely a really 2013 was a good year for stand-up comedy, particularly in Philadelphia. There was a lot of cool stuff happening. A lot of new comics came up. There was a lot of cool venues to do like the open mics and to like um
Yeah.
practice comedy. Let's see. I remember Growlers,
Yeah. Growlers.
which was near South Street, right?
It was like Eighth and Fitzwater, I think.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That was really fun, and I thought that was a really good one. Joey Doherty ran that, and I know Allison Zeidman
hmm
and Aaron Herzog, I think, ran it before that, and then Joey took it over,
Yeah.
and that was a really good mic.
That was a mic. It was like one of my first like mics that I felt comfortable going to. Um, because if you remember James Heskey,
He
uh,
was really funny,
oh my god,
really, really
he
funny.
still is. Yeah, he moved up to New York, and
Yeah.
but I mean, like he's just so funny. And we did a show together in my hometown. And he's like, "Well, do you come to Philly?" And I'm like, "No, you know, they don't like me in Philly, blah blah blah." And he's like, "Well, come to this mic." And I remember I was like a little nervous about it, but like the following Wednesday, I showed up at that mic, and he wasn't there. But then like towards like later in the night, he showed up, and I was like, all right, cool. I have like a person there who I kind of know now,
Mm.
and he was just like so nice and so inviting, and just yeah, such a good guy.
Mm. Um, Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, hmm, um, no, yeah, there were so many great mics in Philly. And we were briefly talking before the show. The Raven Lounge, they
Yeah.
still do an open mic. And at Fergie's Pub, they still do an open
Yeah.
mic.
That's when it
Um,
was that when it was Tight Six back then?
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Tight Six, and then uh, Honorable Mention was after
Oh, that's
that.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, which it was a similar format to Tight Six, but the host changed.
Yeah.
Um, but they still did a really good job with the room, and the room was really solid. Let's see, I know
Urban Saloon. Urban Saloon was a fun one.
Urban Saloon was one of my favorites, and
Same.
it had such an interesting feel to it, and I loved it because it was like a great bar in general, like just an awesome bar, like, and
Yeah.
then it goes into like kind of like the showroom era, like like the showroom area, which is like completely different from like the rest of the bar. Like you go in it and you even forget you're in the urban saloon at all. Like
Mm-hmm.
its own thing. And it could be a difficult room, but I felt like it was a good training room, and it taught comics like patience and how to like regulate emotions and
Yep.
kind of, and
It definitely taught you like how to be stoic on stage. You know, regardless of like how the reaction of a joke goes. Because like you
yeah,
said, you used the words kindly, calling it a training room. But there'd
yeah,
be times if you went up late there and the room emptied out, you're just performing the silence, and
yeah,
that could be soul crushing. But at times, yeah, it's like sometimes you need to do that in a room of people and learn the ropes.
yeah. um it can be really helpful, especially if it's kind of a quiet room, but then there's a few laughs or chuckles, or you kind of scan the room for smiles.
Yeah.
If there's like a few like smiles on people's faces, then you know maybe they liked it, but the energy just wasn't there, and that that happens. Like sometimes there's no laughter because there's no energy, but people still like it. So it's really important to kind of remember as a comic, for all of the comics watching this or listening to this, all the hopeful comics who are um going to open mics and working on new material, like don't get discouraged because you don't get big laughs. Like, material can be really funny, but not necessarily go over well or go over well all the time. And if you're performing in front of the same people, um, it's sometimes hard to get a good reaction every time because they've
Yep.
heard it before. So,
Yeah,
you
the
know,
surprise is gone.
yeah. So, these are problems that, or not problems. This is just like the process that
Yeah.
all comics like deal with. But it's not a bad thing to shake things up either. Like honestly, when I was first doing it, like my first year, I used to come in with like new material pretty much every week. Like, uh, of course, there'd be like a few standbys, but I'd get really bored of like the jokes I was telling, so I would just like try to constantly write new stuff, and that kept it
Yeah.
really fresh and really fun. And you know, for
Yeah.
me, so just like write as much as possible. Um, that's the biggest advice I can give any comic. Just keep writing new material, and uh think existential, think big concept, think about how you can connect it to other jokes. Go big. Think about who your audience is. Think about how think about how heavily it leans on the delivery, how heavily it leans on the punchline, how heavily it leans on the premise,
Yeah.
how heavily it leans on a reference. So just have all of these things like going on, and then you can probably tell it 5 or 6 different ways, which is always fun. So
Oh my god, yeah, it's a blast. Yeah, once you figure out the different ways you can tell it, it makes the joke feel new every single time.
yeah, yeah, and it's usually really fun, and it's also very reassuring for the comic because they know just because it doesn't go over well one way, it you know, why didn't it go over that way? Like, did I not flesh out the premise well enough? Did I not get the timing down on the punchline? Was there a joke before it that slowed it down, or was there a joke before it that overshadowed it? So, no, yeah, it's an ongoing process, but yeah, the Urban Saloon, uh, yeah, I agree with you. Like that was one of my favorite rooms too, because um just uh um tough but very rewarding, and when a set would go well, it always felt really earned and very good and very
Yeah.
satisfying because it was such a hard room.
Yeah,
So
exactly. If you did well in that room, you knew you earned it. Yep.
yeah, one of the only good sets I ever had there was um because like for me, sometimes I do well depending on who I follow. And I know Chanel Ali went before me and she did really well. And her energy is my energy and her energy can play off each other fairly well. So she set up the room perfectly. And then she did really well, and then I went up and I was able to kind of build off of that. But uh she's honestly a really talented comic and just like a
Yeah.
hilarious human being. Like she is
She's
so funny.
crushing it right now.
That's awesome, buddy.
Yeah, she just I think she just recorded something for Netflix with the Lucas brothers.
That's great.
Yeah, isn't that
Oh,
awesome?
yeah. No, like honestly, like Chanel's such a natural. Like just so
Yeah.
funny. Yeah, like
She's natural and she's talented, which is like
uh,
double whammy, and
yeah.
she works so hard. So it's
Mm,
good to see good things happen to good, funny people.
absolutely. That is terrific. Yeah. No, I could talk about stand up for a very long time. Okay, okay. um yeah, um but let's see. So actually where I wanted to start with Liar Liar is it feels like a Saturday Night Live movie that's not a Saturday Night Live movie, even
Ah,
to the casting of, I know that the SNL alum, Sherry O'Terry is in the movie.
that's right. Yeah, she's like the secretary, right? The
Yeah,
assistant.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. She has that part at the beginning, and she comes back later, and I think she's great in it, and I think she's really funny. But especially movies that have SNL cast members, and of course Jim Carrey from In Living Color, and he hosted SNL a lot. So like thinking about this movie as an SNL movie, like Tommy Boy, which was produced by Lauren Michaels, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
and Wayne's World, which Mike Myers, Dana Carvey, both
Yeah.
Saturday Night Live heavyweights. So if you think about this as like an SNL or a sketch comedy type movie, because it's so reliant on big acting and set pieces and spectacle and punchline and personality. Like it's so big on personality and like
Yeah.
the camaraderie between like the characters and the interplay and the rivalry between Cary Elwes and Jim Carrey, because Cary Elwes plays Jerry, who's the boyfriend who's moving to Boston. Who, in watching this again, I really don't like that character. So okay, okay.
Jim Carrey's character?
No, the Jerry character.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Who he's the boyfriend. So, but Jim Carrey's character isn't great either. But
What's he do? He does the tickle.
the claw.
The claw is Jim Carrey's, and then he's like,
Yeah.
The tickle is like, all right, it's creepy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, to me, like in watching this again last night, it is so funny and it is so cleverly written. Every scene is funny. It's so well cut, and it's a really good performance from Jim Carrey. Like he's on his game, top to bottom, just like wall to wall laughs.
Yeah,
so much personality. It is a tour de force performance from Jim Carrey. Like of any performance he's given, with like the exception of like the Truman Show, which he probably should have gotten an Academy Award for. I'd say Liar Liar is his biggest and funniest. I know people would say Ace Ventura, but
those are some big. That's a bold statement there, Drew. That's interesting you'd say that. So it's funny. Like I have the Wikipedia pulled up because I needed an assistant on this one because I went to watch the movie, but it was behind a paywall, and I wasn't paying the $3.99 to rewatch it. I'm doing it all by memory here. But here's a fun fact about the movie. So you said a lot of people said Ace Ventura was his best movie. The guy who wrote Liar Liar, it was a collaboration between 3 collaborators, and this movie was the second of 3 collaborations, which the Ace Ventura being the first one, Liar Liar being the second, and Bruce Almighty being the third. So they wrote this movie like, so they had a nice little partnership with Jim Carrey, and it's like the same guy. So same guy's putting it together, which is cool.
That is cool. Yeah.
And here's a fun piece of trivia for you.
Okay.
Do you know what Liar Liar and Rocky 3 and Rocky 4 have in common?
No.
They have the same editor.
Ooh.
The person who edited the movie is the same person, which is I think that's so interesting because it's like you said, it's such a 90s comedy. And I was like curious to say, I wonder if that person has edited SNL movies. And I don't see anything by SNL. They same editor from Ace Ventura, of course. But then I looked back even further and I saw Rocky 3, Rocky 4, Over the Top, Patch Adams, Men in Black. This guy Don Zimmerman edited all these. So
okay, I can see the Men in Black comparison because Men in Black's also really funny. It's very screwball, like this movie. It's a very good screwball comedy that utilizes the straight and the absurd type formula well. With in Men in Black, you have Tommy Lee Jones is like your really good straight man, and Will Smith is like the absurd. But it also goes back and forth. Like there's some scenes where Will Smith plays the straight man and Tommy Lee Jones plays the absurd. So but a lot of comedy is in editing and is in timing. Like a lot of comedy comes from timing, and Liar Liar has excellent timing, and Men in Black has excellent timing. So
Yeah.
I uh, I appreciate you doing the reconnaissance on the editor because I think editors deserve more credit and cinematographers deserve more credit because how a film is put together and how it is shot is so important.
I
Yeah,
absolutely agree.
but I think the more we learn about editing, the better movies are gonna get. Like, which unfortunately a lot of it comes down to pace of editing, like how quick the cuts are, how fast. Because I feel like in like the YouTube era, we're just like cut, 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 and just like it has to be really fast. Which is good because we have really short attention spans.
Yeah.
So
Oh my God. I'm already thinking about lunch. So it's. I was gonna say that this movie. So the what's the wife's name? Audrey, right? I had
yup,
the Mara Tierney's her name. I had the biggest crush on her in this movie.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Mm,
just that she
mm.
I don't know what it, without being a creep. I really I was like I was in love with her. If Jim Carrey didn't fall in love with her at the end, I was gonna write a strongly letter, a strongly worded letter as a 10-year-old trying to persuade Miss Tierney to go out with me.
Yeah. Um, I think she's a great mom in this movie. Like, I think she's a well cast mom. Like, I honestly like see her in the movie, and I think mom. So, yeah, I think that was an excellent casting choice. Let's see. Um, if I had a crush on any of the actresses in this movie now, it would probably be Jennifer Tilly, just because Jennifer
Oh
Tilly
yeah,
is wonderful and is just such a great actress. And like,
she got big into poker. She like stopped being an
oh
actress
yeah,
to play
she,
poker.
she does high stakes, right?
Like I remember seeing her at the table for the World Series of Poker.
That's really cool. I'd imagine she would have a good poker face. She honestly seems really smart. um,
Yeah,
so and um, let's see. She also has really good timing. So because her timing is so good, I feel like she'd be a really good writer and probably a good director. So I'd love to see Jennifer Tilly write a movie or write a play or
oh that
write
would be cool. Yeah,
a series or something. Like, I think she'd be a really gifted writer and or director. Like, I could see her doing both. I'm not sure if she has. I'm sure she's produced things before, because I feel like she's too smart not to get into production.
yeah. I don't know if she's has that kind of background, but I know I mean, between this movie and like at the time, I can't remember when what was it, Bride of Chucky came out.
Oh, okay.
She, I think it was like the year after this came out, and just like, I mean, yeah, it eventually turned into like a creepy little doll, but she was just, I don't know, she was always like a very attractive actress as well. Like, yeah,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
that didn't need to be said.
No, 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 no.
Can we strike this from the record,
Oh
please?
yeah. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Um, no, and of course, this is all said in jest. We're
Thank you, Drew. Get me off that hook.
Yup. All send jest.
And I've been drinking.
Oh
Maybe I need to slow down.
man.
I'm a little nervous, Drew. I just told you my problems off air, and not problems, blessings. To
Yes.
clarify.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's I'm enjoying the fruits of my labor, and that's a White Claw.
Ooh, that's a good choice.
Yes.
Very cool. Okay, so let's see. Do you have a favorite performance from an actor in this movie that we haven't discussed so far?
I'm gonna say Mopey Little Max crushes the role as a sad kid.
He's great.
He really is. I would say his mopiness as a kid, I was relating with it. Now I probably, if I watched it, I wouldn't like it as much. But him, and then Jim Carrey's legal secretary is fantastic in this too.
Oh, she's great.
Yeah.
Greta is the name of the character.
That's right. Yeah.
And I know she was the court liaison in or Mrs. Doubtfire too.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And she's really good in that too. And she essentially plays a pretty similar character, but she does it so well, and you really believe it. So
yeah.
I don't know who did casting for this movie, but it's very well cast.
Yeah. You know what I love watching about this movie too? This was like one of those movies as a kid, the bloopers at the end. Like they would play them in the credits, and I know that was a popular thing to do, but just like seeing everyone break for Jim Carrey, like take after take.
Oh yeah.
It was so fun and enjoyable, and just like solidified how great the movie was.
Yeah. Yeah, like they're obviously just having a blast, and unfortunately, this was the last movie for the actor who played the judge in the movie. He sadly passed away, I think, pretty shortly after. So the movie is dedicated to him. It's in memoriam. It's in memory of him, which is great. And he is so good. The judge is so good in this movie.
Yeah,
he's really funny, and he goes toe to toe with Jim Carrey like really well, which makes sense from Jim Carrey's In Living Color background, that he'd be able to have good chemistry with African American actors, because he did it all the time in Living Color. So, and that's his background.
This guy, the judge is Jason Bernard.
Okay,
I'm looking it up.
Cool.
He was a judge. He was a rival judge on Night Court first. The
Never
first
saw
season.
that show.
I saw episodes a long time ago, but so he had history of being a judge too. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. There's just some really great character actors out there that they just find a really good niche, and they can stick to it, and you really believe it. Like, you do believe this guy is a judge, and like somehow he can counterbalance Jim Carrey, who's going like a mile a minute. So
that's got to be hard.
Yeah.
Like him, Robin Williams, that must be really hard to compete with.
Right. Just guys who are just like lightning strike, like lightning, just like tons of energy, all the time.
Yep.
Just like super charismatic actors. But they usually know how to play off other actors too. Like they're usually really good at that. Jim Carrey and Robin Williams both. Just excellent at playing off other actors. So
Yeah,
because I think Jim Carrey does understand the human condition very well. So
I think
yeah.
you have to kind of do comedy that well, you know.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
my favorite scene, like in the movie, is like when Max does like the birthday wish, and you have that next morning, and
Uh,
he's waking up with that woman, right? That's when
yeah.
he's waking up with
Yeah.
that woman,
Yeah.
and she's like, "How was it for you?" And he's like, "I've had better," and then he can't stop, and he can't figure out why he can't. Like that scene is just so. Like think about that. Like there's no special effects happening to make that transition happening. Yet we're like on board for all of it. It's amazing.
Yeah. The visual storytelling in this movie is really good, and it's great music too. I
Yeah.
think the soundtrack also kind of helps. The score kind of helps sell that scene. But yeah, like I was like maybe 7 or 8, 7 to 10 when I saw this movie, and I could understand all of it. Like uh, maybe there was a reference or two I didn't get. Like there's a lot of sexual innuendo stuff that kind of went over my head, which I'm watching it now and I'm like, okay, that's in the movie. Okay. Okay. Yeah. But and it's still really funny. But no, this is a very watchable movie and it's very understandable. It's very digestible.
Yeah.
It's also heavy. Like this is a
Yeah.
heavy as hell movie too.
Yeah, it definitely has a heart to it
Yeah.
with the sense of like you're dealing with a kid who's so heartbroken that his dad lies to him.
Yeah.
So he makes this wish.
Yeah.
Like, whew. And the poor kid's just suffering through a divorce. That's just it's and you see the like, you know, the dad failing,
Yeah.
but in his own mind he's lying to himself and he learns
Yeah.
to kind of like see himself for who he is. And yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. Um yeah. Um so Jake, would you show this movie to your kids?
When they get older, yeah, because I mean I think like you said you were maybe 7 or 8 when this movie came out,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
probably saw it then, right?
I think when it got syndicated on TV, I think I was probably like 9.
Okay, yeah, like I mean I think the for the physical comedy alone, like of him taping up his face and like
Yeah.
the pen is blue, like
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
which is like that's the I mean that's probably the most quoted line from that movie
Huh.
for sure, right? I would think.
That in the claw.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. The claw probably trumps that, yeah. But I mean, yeah, I know I would always as a kid always be like the pen is royal blue. Yeah, it
Oh.
was always so fun to do. But yeah, I
Yeah.
would show that to them. Probably, I'd probably wait until like they were 7 to 9 to show it to them
Yeah.
and see what they
Um
understand, what they don't.
yeah, it's a good call. But I think it holds up really well. Uh the last time we did the podcast together, the last time you were on, we did the Adam Sandler episode, and those were all also comedies that have aged very well. So and
Yeah,
that still hold up. So the 90s was a great time for comedies. Just really.
yeah. But I will say for probably for every like one great comedy movie, there was easily 10 terrible comedy movies. but I can't think of any of them anymore.
I'd say there's probably some Pauly Shore in there. Probably Jury Duty.
I would
That's
argue, yeah, that's a good one. I would say Deuce Bigelow.
mm,
It's a movie I loved, but like, yeah, I
oh,
mean, not so much anymore. That and Shallow Hal.
I actually think Shell House still pretty good.
You like it? Okay, all right.
It's funny, but there is a lot of problematic stuff in it.
Yeah,
So like some of it hasn't aged well. I think Gwyneth Paltrow is really good in it.
yeah.
I like most things that Jack Black does. The story's a bit mean spirited, and I think that's kind of the point. And I
Hmm.
like that Tony Robbins is in it. Like, I
That is
think he's
cool.
great. Yeah, he's awesome, and he's he's like he's so like larger than life in the movie. Like, and he's like running shit. Like, he actually like controls the whole movie. So okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. So um that's really cool. Yeah. Yeah. So I wouldn't necessarily watch Shallow Hal again, but I
The Animal. Remember The Animal?
I never saw that one.
Exactly. Actually, that may have been in early 2000s.
Haha. Yeah, that could have been 01 or 02. That might be worth another look because it kind of
Yeah, you
seems
know,
like
no, I take it all
he has
back. I think sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Every comedy was a hit in the 90s.
mm,
Wow. Yeah, everything was. I'm just looking through it now. Every single movie was great.
mm.
All right, never mind. Imagine a generation where every single funny movie they make is hilarious. That was the 90s.
Mm.
Never Been Kissed, Casper,
Oh, yeah.
Last Action Hero. I could keep going. I won't. I'll stop.
Ha, ha, ha. Yeah. They're all really funny and they're all really good. And like Casper and Last Action Hero are really high concept movies. um,
Yeah.
like Casper's like supernatural stuff like all day, and Last Action Hero is like a movie within a movie, which is so clever.
It
Like
was a really cool original idea.
yeah.
It inspired The Ring. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I don't know if it
Okay.
did. That's all The Ring is a scary Last Action Hero.
Oh man. Oh. I've actually never seen The Ring.
Oh, if
Which
you have 7 days after you watch it to save your life.
oh man. Ooh, I've seen it. I've seen it made fun of in Scary Movie.
Okay.
So I've seen them parody it, and I know Naomi Watts in it. And
Yeah.
but yeah, I generally stay away from horror in all shapes and forms. So I'll probably keep that trend alive. Yeah, like earlier in the episode when you were talking about Bride of Chucky, I was like, oh, I'm definitely
Yeah, I
staying
heard
away
you
from
making
that one.
noise.
Okay.
Let me ask you this: are you someone who likes to go to like haunted houses or hay rides or anything?
Haunted hayrides are cool.
Okay, but the haunted houses, it's a little too much, right? Where you're walking around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, but with the hayride, like you still feel like you have like safe and security. With like a haunted house, you feel like you could be like trapped in the house. It'd be like, ugh.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like with the hayride, you could still run away. Like you could still escape unless you get like lost in a corn maze, which is like,
Yeah.
yeah, it could happen. So, Wire Wire is great. 90s comedies are great. Yeah, yeah. If you guys watching or listening have a 90s comedy on DVD at home, get it out, watch it. It'll probably be funny.
Yeah. Wise words.
Yeah, and it'll take you down nostalgia lane. Hopefully you'll remember like watching it for the first time and like things like that, and you'll look at it with a different perspective now, but hopefully be able to appreciate for how cool it is. That's actually a good transition into our next topic, which is the Pixies album Bossanova, which we're gonna pick 2 songs each from the album that we really like. So Jake, if you had to pick a favorite song from the album or a song that you really appreciate from the album, what would it be?
So my number one song on the album is Dig for Fire.
Yeah, I agree.
It was the first Pixie song I've ever heard in my entire life.
Ooh.
And I remember hearing that song and falling in love with it. So it was like it was used in a skateboarding video, a Trans World skate video. And there's a cool montage while that song's playing. And I remember as soon as like I wasn't even done watching the video for the first time. It was on VHS. So I remember as soon as that scene was done, I remember fast forwarding all the way to the end and writing down every song and every artist and like trying to find who it was. You know what I mean? But then like at that time I was in 7th grade. All I knew was that the Pixies weren't a band anymore and that was a song they had. So this was like before internet and Google and like I didn't know any of their albums. All I knew was this one song. I didn't know where it came from. And that was that for years up until like up until college. That's when I like rediscovered them. But that song is just such an awesome, fun song. It's probably their least Pixies sounding song. But it's really fun. And it always hits me in my core every time it starts.
Yeah, that would be my favorite too. And in re-listening to it, it kind of reminded me of like the Smiths or Morrissey or kind of glam type music. I feel like the Pixies are very glam influenced. Like you hear the David Bowie influence, you hear other glam type bands as the influence, which to say, but I think what's so wonderful about the Pixies is they're pretty original. Like they do have a pretty unique sound. I'm not sure. Do you also listen to the band The Presence of the United States of America?
I mean, I've listened to them, but not to the extent I've listened to the Pixies.
Okay.
Like I know like Lump and I know Peaches, of course.
Oh yeah.
And like that's essentially it. That's
if you go deeper into their library, I think they have a song called Kitty, and uh, uh, um, uh, 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 or Body is another really good one by Presidents. It reminds me of the Pixies.
Oh, cool.
I think there's similar bands. I think the lead singers have similar vocal patterns. I think their voices sound similar. So, I'd say if you're a fan of the Pixies, you'd probably be a fan of Presidents of the United States. Maybe They Might Be Giants. I think you'd
Definitely
probably
Modest Mouse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Modest Mouse, I feel like has a big Pixies influence.
Cool.
Just my perception, opinion, but
okay. Yeah, I actually think most bands are influenced by the Pixies because you hear it so much in modern rock. Like Foo Fighters, like you really hear it in Foo Fighters. And I know Kurt Cobain said that Nirvana was heavily influenced by Pixies, that they used to do like the playing music really quiet and then playing it really loud because they heard the Pixies do it. So and they wanted to do it that way, which is so cool.
It's awesome.
Yeah. That's really, really fun. So is there a second song from the album that you really love?
I mean, it's like children. It's hard to pick a favorite here, if I'm being honest.
It's hard, but you could. Okay.
But I could, yes.
No.
I would say, I mean, there's so many good ones on here that I want to say that I feel like I'm just leaving them off. I'm essentially just naming their two singles, which was Dig for Fire and Valoria.
Oh.
Yeah, well, I surprised you in that one.
Yeah. Let's see. I was listening to Valoria today. It's really good.
The music video is the most simplest. I'll say it's the dumbest idea. But I can't stop watching it. Are you familiar with the music video for Valoria?
No, I haven't seen it. No.
So it's just the band, and it's just them like skipping to you while the song plays, and while they're skipping to you, it's just while they're running across this like boulder field, it's in slow motion. So the whole song's playing in regular speed while they're just running towards you in slow motion, and that's the entire video. Yet I can't take my eyes off it.
Oh man. All right. Valoria. Okay.
But there's so many good songs on it, dude. I mean, I feel like there's 14 songs, and narrowing it down to 2, it's brutal. So I guess the way I looked at it was like, here are my 2 introductory songs from the albums. If you don't listen to the Pixies, hopefully these 2 will get you in it. But I mean, like, like the Cecilia Ann, the way the album kicks off with that, it's a cover, is pretty fantastic. Then you end the thing with Javelina, which is one of my favorite Pixie songs ever. It's just so calm and just beautiful. And like, I mean, I think I went through a phase with every single song on here, like Stormy Weather, The Happening, Down to the Well, All Over the World, Is She Weird? Oh man, all these songs. Allison was a big one for me for a while.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just naming them all.
No. Yeah. I was honestly listening to the album all the way through for the first time. I think I'd heard a few of these songs in passing, but let's see. The Happening really kind of struck me. That I found to be a pretty powerful song. I really hope they still play that live. I saw the Pixies live at a music festival a few years ago, and they were really good. And the set list was really versatile and really kind of well put together. And not necessarily all the hits. Like, they saved like some of the hits for last, and they did just, a lot of good songs from their library.
I think I've seen them 8 or 9 times now live,
Yeah.
and I've never seen them
Oh,
play Dig for Fire.
that sucks. Oh, I'd love to see them play that.
Yeah, I would too, but like I like to play music as well. Like I'm a musician, and it's a very easy song to play.
Okay.
That like I could see if you're doing that night after night, you would probably hate it so fast
Oh yeah.
because it's it's borderline boring to play because like it's so simple. You know what I mean? So maybe that's why they don't play. I don't know, but it's when you put all the pieces together, it makes a really amazing song. And that's what makes the Pixies a great band is they know how to put together 4 simple parts to make it one magical song.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna start crying on the podcast now.
Oh.
And of all
Uh.
the albums, Drew, I have a Bossanova poster on my wall. I'm trying to turn it. Yeah.
Oh man. That's really cool. Yeah. Yeah. Like honestly, like Pixies is one of those bands who just deserves a second look, a third look, a fourth look because the music is so sophisticated and
Yeah.
it's so like layer. It's so layered. It's so like multi-layered, and I personally don't necessarily get it right away. But if you let it wash over you, if you let it sink in, if you think about like each individual small part, then it does kind of start to make sense. Now obviously there's some songs where you might hear like screaming or like it sounds like a recitation of what like a poem or like a play or something, and you're like, what am I listening to? But if you think of it as a piece of a bigger song or like a bigger concept, or if
Yeah.
you have an idea that they're going for something bigger,
Yep.
then it does start to make sense. Like they're going big.
And I think with like with the way the album is, I guarantee you yourself, if you listen to the album today all the way through, I guarantee like 2-3 days from now, you're gonna be humming a chorus
Huh.
or a verse from one of these songs,
Uh,
and you're gonna be like, "What is? Oh, I think it's that Pixie song." And it's like, "Oh,
uh,
that's weird. What Pixie song is that?" It just gets trapped in your head, and like you said, it's like when you look at what they're doing, it's the first band where I realized it's like a lot of rock bands, like the bass will follow the guitars.
mm,
You know what I mean? And it's always just like that. But what I learned is like there's 2 guitars, a bass, and drums, and they're all doing their own thing to make one thing, which is so cool because like the bass is playing like counter rhythm while the drummer's doing like just a backbeat, and then the guitars doing the one guitar's doing reggae while the other one's doing like scary tones. You know what I mean? Like
yeah. Ooh, yeah.
it's so cool.
Yeah, it's so multifaceted, and I yeah, like I recommend people listen to Pixies again because you might get something new out of it each time, or you might get into a different part of the song or a different part of the music, which I think is really cool.
The the coolest thing, so Dig for Fire, the one we first talked about,
Oh yeah.
with those drums in the beginning, the way it starts off, it has like a little tingle, like a bell kind of sound, and you hear it, it's like tss, 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 and you hear it, and you're like, okay, there's the 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're hearing that, and you think that's the beat of the song, and then when the drums come in, they come in on like the opposite beat, and you're like, oh my god, what is happening? And both guitars are doing different things, and the bass is doing something different, and then all of a sudden, like it just sounds like chaos, and then it just crashes on the 1 of the verse, and you're just like, oh my god, now they're all in sync together, and it's like this beautiful song. And I think I just never heard anything like that until I heard the Pixies.
Mhm.
All right, I'm sorry, I am going to cry now.
Oh man. Well, like the Pixies are great. Uh, I'd love to talk to you about another Pixies album too, Jake. And I know you do have another engagement, so we do have to end the episode right now. But thank you guys for watching and listening. The Pixies are great. Bossanova is a great album. Liar Liar is a wonderful movie. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Drew, for having me back.
Absolutely, Jake.